I'm not one that's really picky when it comes to watching movies. I've been watching movies obsessively pretty much my entire life. I mean, I'll watch pretty much anything. I've always thought I've had a rather strange taste in films until my redheaded devil wife made me watch some of her favorite films. A weird collection of horror and comedy that makes me question her sanity. This is Weird Movies My Wife Makes Me Watch. Rocketman from 1997 is a strange film for Disney to put out, and they must think so too because they still have not put this on Disney+. I got this one for Autumn for Christmas. She said that this is like a childhood classic for her and her sister, but this isn't really an easy one to find. There is a Blu-ray 20th anniversary edition that's out of print and goes for a little too much money, but the only place I could even find the DVD in stock was from Best Buy, and unfortunately it's 4:3, so it's not in the original aspect ratio, so parts of the film are cropped out. Come on Disney, this disc was made within a time frame for you to put a rewards code featuring artwork from Coco, Star Wars, and Thor. You could have gave us the original aspect ratio. The film opens up with a kid playing astronaut in a dryer as it turns on. Okay, starting kind of strong with this one. In the UK, they actually had to cut this scene out for it to get a PG rating. Wait a minute, is his mom fucking Shelley Duvall?
The people always shout, John Jacob Dingle!
Stay away from me!
Okay. Anyway, we cut to 23 years later at NASA when a pilot simulation crashes and fails.
Get me the name of the guy that wrote this software!
That pretty much sums up the humor of this movie. The lead, Fred Randall, is played by Harland Williams. I personally have really come to like him and his comedy. He's a pretty weird guy. I mean, he literally did an entire stand-up special on top of a mountain in the middle of the desert with no audience pre the 19th.
Hey! Get out of here! I'm doing a texting joke here! Ah! Oh, you want another one? Huh? You want a juicy? Here's a juicy wing. Yours, Crow!
Harland is just one of those guys that you really never know if it's just an act and he's like on all the time, or if he's genuinely this bizarre of a dude. But either way, I wish this guy would have gotten more work in film. I did find out looking more into his filmography that he did direct a feature film in 2010 called Fudgy Wudgy Fudge Face. Yeah, let that title sink in for a little bit. I do love the fact that his pants are the same color as his car. Now that's some style. Not gonna lie though, the scene kind of reminds me of Mr. Bean. Randall is gaming like a true gamer when he realizes people are in his office and then starts to fanboy all over them.
Sweet Alaskan asparagus tips. You're the Mars team.
They think the computer program that Randall made is causing the mission to fail when he argues that it's not the program but the controller. When the astronaut tries to prove that it's the program, he gets got.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
Since the man injured his pride, they decided to replace him with Randall, so Randall is freaking out about becoming an astronaut, and he runs into the punching bag of the movie, Bud Nesbitt.
Pushed me right into Bud Nesbitt, the Apollo 13 wrecker.
I mean, the way Randall acts, he bumbles around into everything, like, why him? Sure, he knows the program, but you have to train him on everything else, so why not train someone who's a little more competent? I might be thinking a little too much into this one, though. Apparently, Julie Ford thinks the same as I do.
What do you think? I mean, what is your reasoning here, Paul?
Randall ends up going out with the other space pilots and gets drunk, making a scene as you would expect. He's sleeping off the booze and we get this nice little subtle gag. I mean, his roommate is a chimp, and they have Randall being the one sleeping next to Banana Peel. That might be the funniest part of the movie for me. That chimp is so freaking cute. So apparently Randall does have to beat out another man for the spot to go on the trip. I actually really like this scene as well. They use split screen to show both chambers, and of course Randall being Randall is driving the other competitor absolutely insane. Randall ends up beating the record on the G machine that was held by William Sadler's character Bill Overbeck. I guess playing in the dryer really did prepare him for this. The machine actually breaks on Randall, sending him flying and killing him. The credits roll and that's Rocketman. Just kidding, he kind of flies into that guy from earlier and furthers his injuries. This film was clearly the biggest inspiration for Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys. So I'm sitting here editing this video and I realized something. This reporter in the tan suit twice now has stood up to say something and has been cut off and ignored, and he kind of repeats the same line from the BBC. And the second time he looks so offended. It's also some really bad dubbing.
Then it's BBC.
Anyway, they pick Randall to go to Mars. The group heads off into space, and while in space, the president holds a live interview broadcast with the space group when Randall is covered in blue dye after falling into the toilet. He starts singing "Whole World in My Hands" as everyone around the world starts to sing it too. Apparently, according to IMDb's trivia, when he sings in the other languages, when he gets to the French, he actually says, "I am the butterfly on the table," for whatever reason. So the crew goes into their hibernation chambers when Ulysses the chimp takes Fred Randall's chamber, so he tries to climb into the chimps and can't fit, so naturally he wakes up early. They still have 8 months to get to Mars, so naturally Randall does Randall things. He begins painting all over the ship with the food tubes, so when it's time for the rest of the crew to wake up, Bill has the obvious reaction to the wasted food as anybody would have.
That's food. Look! It's gone! We're doomed!
They then realize that they're at Mars and they decide to head down. Bill is pretty excited to be the first man to step on Mars.
Be the first man to set foot on the surface of Mars. Whoops!
The crew goes to set up the flag and it gets Randalled, so they replace it with his boxers. Bill starts running out of oxygen, so he has to connect to Randall's to share supply, which is mainly just set up for this reason only. A funny thing I noticed is that in one cut they have their visors and then the next cut they don't and then they do again. So apparently they can breathe on Mars. So there's like this big windstorm coming in and they're not sure if they can go out and get their fossil samples. So Bill leaves to go get them. If they get caught in the storm, then they won't be able to leave Mars and they're kind of just stuck there. So Randall heads out to rescue him. Julie gives him a smooch on the visor. Too bad for him, it wasn't a few cuts ago. Randall finds the chimp and eventually finds Bill trapped under the rover. This is a weird scene because Randall basically won't help him until he calls him mommy.
Fine, Commander, call me mommy! What? Call me mommy now!
Ulysses' air runs out, so Fred gives him his air supply, and they make their way back to the ship, but Fred seems to get lost, so Bill goes back out to save him. The crew barely escapes when we get this weird dance sequence. Their wardrobes are supposed to be made out of like space blankets, I guess. I don't know. Randall and Julie are now a thing, I guess, as well. It seems really underdeveloped, and I guess according to Harland Williams, it was going to be even more forced.
You know, the whole "When You Wish Upon a Star" scene, because he was such a bumbling guy, and all of a sudden they have this scene where Julie falls in love with me. And I said to the guys, the crew, the director, the producers, the writers, I said, guys, we can't have Julie falling in love with Fred Randall because he's a disaster. He's annoying and he's ruining everything, and there's no catalyst for her to fall in love with the guy. I said we need to have a moment where she sees another side of him, where she sees a side she can fall in love with. And that's when I came up with the whole thing about them looking out the window and him saying, "Oh, that's my star," and she says that's her star, and then he serenades her and sings "When You Wish Upon a Star."
The crew heads back into their hibernation chambers, and Ulysses does the same thing, leaving Fred out once again. And there's no way there's enough food, so like Fred totally dies or eats his crewmates. Like there's not enough food. They made that clear already, and it's an 8-month journey, so something's got to give. Either way, we get a credit scroll with Rocketman by Elton John playing. But wait, there's a tag ending. So yeah, that was Rocketman. My first time watching this, I really wasn't that big on it. I thought it was alright, but definitely seemed forgettable. And after a second watch, I did enjoy it a lot more. Harland is a strange guy with an even stranger sense of humor. And since this was a Disney film, it does feel like they kind of reined him in a bit, didn't let him go quite as Harland would go.
I'm having sex with nature.
But Harland is still what carries this film to the finish line. I think my biggest complaint is that nothing really seems to happen in the movie. It feels like the plot is there to more or less string along these comedy sketches or punchlines. There's not really any character growth, even though the film tries to end on this big happy ending finale thing. I think on my second viewing though, my expectations of the film was better set, so I was able to kind of just enjoy the film a little bit more tone deaf than I was the first time around. It could also be because I dived way more into Harland Williams in preparation for this video, so I've kind of come to understand his comedy style a lot more. Overall though, I think I'll raise my rating from like a 5 to a 6. I think the next video in this series I might do is May, so hopefully you'll check that out as well. Either way, thanks for watching. Peace.
Or if you don't dig the movie, give it a second chance. And you better dig the movie, or I'll get a shovel out of the back of my truck and I'll dig it.